Demolition, old boards, new composite, flashing, and the joists. I think my boards are too close spaced here. Supposed to be a 1/4 inch apart. These come with spacers and a hidden anchoring system. Anyway, I got a lot to do, looks like that. And then I'm going to leave the upright balusters, but I'm going to do the stairs too. It's a big job, but got some time. Okay, so I'm coming up to the top here. This is the landing where I put this flash tape, deck flashing tape, to protect the joist. That's well worth it. It's expensive, but it's thick like tar paper stuff, and it'll protect those joists from rotting out. Because these boards here, the Trex, are supposed to last 25 years or longer. Found a few spots I hadn't stained there, so I put a little bit extra stain up under there this morning. You know, I put accents on my deck. Those are cedar, that's cedar, but you know. Anyway, so I'm replacing these old boards with the Trex, and I did have to, every now and then you can't get your spacers in there, so you know, the next one went, so I put a face nail in there. That's not been a problem. There's another face nail there. Get ones that color match your Trex. They come in all different colors. A hidden fastener system. So what I'm doing is, first of all, when I bring these boards up, they're not going to sit in there straight, not a single one. You're going to have to, I'm using the spreaders. I reversed the clamp head, you know, took it down to the other end and reversed the direction so I can spread. I got 4 of them here. And as I go, I'm kind of taking and the initial, I put these 4 in there, and then as I go, I start moving along and moving the clamps as I go, as I put the fasteners in. So put the fasteners in, what you want to do is you take a little sample board here, short one, just make it slightly longer than the joist. It's a cut-off piece. It just happened to be slightly longer than 2 joists, which is good because you don't want to be hitting your clamps all the time and moving them too much. And you take and you jam that in there, because these fasteners, you just set them in there loose, and then put it in there. Well, I'm not gonna be able to get it back in there now. There's the fastener. It's got 1/4 inch spacing, which is what you want, which is a nice even space. So I set it in there, and if the board's too high, sometimes you gotta stand on it back there to level them up. I'm looking at the screws pointing straight vertical, because you don't want them tilted. Like this one's gonna be tilted, I can tell already, because this board's sitting up above the joist. This one here. So I put that in, I screw them halfway down, not all the way in, just halfway down. These back ones are still halfway down on the board behind it. The other ones are already screwed all the way in. The back one's halfway down because I think if you go too far down, it might lift this front edge up. So once I get these front ones in halfway down, then I'll go back and tighten all the back ones so I'm not tripping over them. Some people leave them all loose all the way down. I don't see why you need to do that, really. So I'm moving my station. I work here, I put those 2 in, then I'll remove that one, put that one in, and then I'll just move on down and put 2 at a time. It's a slow process, but you know, I can't like stand in between these. This is too high of a deck to do something more rapid than that, and just slide them all down or something. And some people put them in there, I see, and slide them down. So it's a slow process. Things you need for this job are, you need this big crowbar. Here's my foot for scale. And this is to pull out the nails that are left over when you pull the boards up. Sometimes nails rip right through them. So you pull those out. I got this, it says Crescent something or other online, but it's a nice tool for popping boards up. So I use that. The only problem is I can't get the very ends here. So I usually use just a crowbar right next to the balusters there. And you know, I have to cut my boards to length. If you're doing a deck new, yeah, you just, you know, mark a line down the edge and take a circular saw and leave them all long and just cut them right off. But the problem is I've already got the balusters in and I'm replacing wood, so I have to cut them to length. I'm leaving a little bit for expansion in the ends there because it's November. In July, these things supposed to get real hot. They say don't get too dark of boards because if they're too dark, they heat up more. And so mine are kind of medium. The real light ones, I guess, would have less heat, but they're going to be a problem with stains, I would think. I don't know. But anyway, I just use saddle brown as the ones I'm using. So these little hidden connectors, I'll show you one up close here. they're kind of 1/4 inch spacing. You can use those for spacers. At first I started to make my own spacers. I made a little dowel rod and a shim that dropped straight down in there, and I'm like, boy, that was stupid. You can just take these spacers, if you're even face nailing or something, you can use this spacer for face nailing. Just set it in there like that, loose, face nail it, and then take the spacer out. So you don't need to make spacers. So it's a 1/4 inch spacing, and I started this end. I guess most people might start at the house end and go out, but I had that first board. I knew that right there, that first board, the long one, ran all the way down the side there. Even with that, I'm going to have to rip some boards at the end of the landing there. I'm going to have to rip one, and for the edge of the house I'm going to have to rip one there too. It'll be a little short probably, or long, we'll see. But Trex seems pretty close to the wood boards, but these wood boards weren't spaced adequately. You can see, I mean, sometimes there's hardly any space in there. That's not good for drainage. So 4 clamps, did them as spreaders, popped out the inside outside. I use the flashing tape before I put the boards down. I'll be running some more flashing tape as soon as this dries out a little more. It just got in the sun. That's the problem in the morning, it's too wet to put the flashing tape. So I reinforced a few joists up under there too. I don't know if you can see that, but I put some boards there with nuts to reinforce it. Where there was a little bit of rot, there was a round umbrella stand that sat here and water collected for years, and so I had to reinforce these last 3 joists, and I'm screwing into the reinforcement. So that's just the way I'm doing it. You know, you need a broom, you need a crowbar. Here's the connectors, not cheap but worth it to be hidden connectors. And here's the flashing tape that I'm using. It comes in these rolls, again, not cheap, but it peels off the back. It's easy to put on, it's not a problem. Just cut it to length. I mean, I wish I could do longer lengths if I could stand under there and I could just take all these boards off, but since I can only do a few at a time, try to do about 3 or 4 rows of tape. I'll pull out this board before I put the tape on for the next one. Now I've got the new board set in place. Okay, so I'm doing some boards for this deck. I'm replacing, it already has balusters, so I have to cut them to length, to size. I'm doing the Trex. I'm replacing the wood boards over here, and a couple jigs I could show you. This one I just to mark in the cutoff, because I've got 26 boards that all have to be cut the same length. So I just basically made a little jig here where just super glue that on there, sinocrylate, and just move it up here, and it tells the same length to cut off all the boards, since they're the same except landing and down to the last row, and there's some flashing right here, flashing, and I'm gonna have to rip that board. That one's gonna need to be ripped. So it looks like it's got some caulk there, the doorway opening. So I'm still applying my flashing tape, going up under this, and I'm gonna buy some new flashing for this. I'm gonna get some new stuff. Okay, so here's the deck going out. Still gotta do the stairs. Big improvement, huh? So I had to use a flooring tool here to separate this second to last board, to pull it out from the wall, tighten it. I was able to get clips in. I slid them in at the wide end down there. It's about a 1/4 inch difference. I was really lucky. It wasn't a big difference when I started all the way out at this board right here, and all the way up here. There's only about a 1/4 inch difference, maybe 3/8 from one end to the other, but it's a little wider over here. But I didn't have to rip the last board at an angle or anything. I just ripped it straight, so it's a little wider here, but I was able to drop some spacers in there and slide them down. Dropped them in the end where it was wider. I've got a post on the end there, so I can't just slide them in the end, unfortunately. I drop them down in that crack where it's a little too wide and slide them all the way down, and got them in here going down toward the end. I mean, yeah, I had to put some screws in right there, and I had to put some screws in right there. This is what I'm using to mark how far back off the board from here to here. Put a spot in there and then drill the hole and anchor it. These were a little too wide for the spacers. This board here, I'm going to have to put that metal flashing. I bent it up around the side of the board. I'm going to put some caulk along here. I have some roofing caulk, and I've got to slide that back still. I'll probably have to use a crowbar or something to push that back. And be careful not to damage the edge. Underneath that black is the flashing. I spray painted with black paint. That was the smartest thing I did because I didn't want to show, didn't want the aluminum shiny to show through there. So I spray painted it black. It was a 10 inch wide piece, and I nailed it. Just put some nails to hold it in place until this board gets in. Just put one nail in each joist there. Roofing nails, so they're very flat. Probably didn't need that much. Probably could have put about 1 or 2 at each end, because this board is going to hold it in. What I'm doing now is routing some slots in the stair ones with this slot cutter. I got it on Amazon. It says it's a replacement for the Trex blade, this router bit that's cheaper. It was about 30 something bucks. And what I do is I cut some grooves in the back of the board to put the clips in, so the front stair can clip into the hidden fastener system. So I'm just just clamped it in my workbench here and drew some lines with the marker on the ends to where to route the slots, and it's working okay. I kind of got a little lifted the router up too soon right there, but that's okay. It's actually past the part that a clip will be in there. The clips on the ends will be okay.